Hey, it's Catherine. I am super excited to share with you today's podcast with my friend Katrina. Katrina has helped put together a system that she has to help us legally, medically, and financially to put all of these things in order so that if the worst has happened, then you are prepared. And if the worst hasn't happened, knowing that you are prepared in case it does. I can't wait to share all of the nuggets and the system that she's created with all of you. You are not going to want to miss this episode. Hi, and welcome back to Grief Inspired. My name is Catherine McNulty, and today I am elated to have my friend Katrina here with us today because this is such an important topic. And this is something that I personally am learning about in my life. And I've talked to a lot of you who have experienced situations where you've lost a spouse or someone, and there are big legal and financial questions, and you don't know what to do, and you don't know where to go. And Katrina is here to help us. And so if you are in a probate situation, if you know that things are coming that you need to be prepared for, and maybe you haven't, or maybe you know that you yourself are getting older and you haven't taken care of these things, Katrina's here to help. Welcome to the Grief Inspired Podcast, Katrina.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here. Happy to help.
Yes. And I'm so excited because I got to watch Beforeyadie come to fruition. So I will be sure to put your website here so that everybody can see it. But I love that you call it Beforeyadie. And it's Y-A, Before Ya Die.
I'm from the South.
Exactly. So they're going to love to hear your Southern twang. Tell us where this came from and why you called it Beforeyadie.
It started when my husband got sick because we had all the plans to do all the things, and he started having chronic daily migraines. And we kept going from place to place, and nobody had the medical records. Nobody knew what he was on, what tests had been done or anything. So I started putting together his medical notebook. And thankfully, because one time we went to the hospital and they had no records whatsoever for him. They had been hacked. So, and this was like just a few years ago. They didn't know what he was on, who his doctors were or anything. Thankfully, I could pull out my notebook and say, here you go. And then, that's all I was doing. I wasn't worried about anything else. Then my father-in-law passed away. And his wife had predeceased him, so we had to go in. We had to clean out the house and go through the entire house. And my father-in-law kept everything private, so every document had to be gone through to see what he had, what he didn't have, who he owed, and all of this. And it was like, I'm not doing this to my kids. Not to do this, because it was overwhelming trying to live, take care of my kids, work 2 jobs, and do what needed to be done to take care of this. So I decided, okay, let's put something together. So I started putting another notebook together for my kids. And I told them, when I go, your dad will tell you where it is. Or if he goes, your dad will tell you where it is. So you can go get that notebook, look through it and see what we have, get what you want out of the house, and then pay somebody to come clean everything else out, get rid of it, and either move into it, sell it, whatever you're going to do with it. But don't spend your time doing that and digging through my house, because I'll have it organized for you.
That is incredible. Now, you had some background to help you with some of this. You have been a legal assistant in the area of, define it for me.
I've done probate, estate, divorce, guardianship, and bankruptcy. So
okay, so you know all the things.
Yes.
Okay. So talk to me about what you put together and what it actually does for people.
Well, what I do is I offer a workshop where we go over the big areas. The first thing that I tell people is the hardest area of all is the legal department. We go through all of the documents, figuring out what they are, what they mean, what their purpose is, and getting your answers to your personal representative is, who your beneficiaries are, who you want to be your decision makers and planning your last wishes, deciding your end of life care, all of those things, and getting it set up. And you answer questionnaires and you submit it to me. It comes back to you formatted, ready to go, so that you can take it to the attorney and you'll know what you want, what your goals are, what decisions you have made, so you can actually ask informed questions about what your goals are. Because some people, their goal is not to go through probate. Other people's, their goal is, I want to make sure that my kids are taken care of because they have minor children. It depends on what your goals are as to what you need. So I educate you on what those different documents are and what that means.
This is so amazing. And in all of my courses and the things that I talk about, I recommend that people do this. Now, we have a subset of viewers here who might be in probate right now, right? Because they weren't prepared. There was a death, and now they need, they're in the crux of it, right? And they're dealing with probate and all the financials, and they're doing it while they're grieving. And this is just, it's just a lot. And then there's fighting, and so what would you say to those people who are here? Can you help them?
Yes, I can help them, because the next section we do is start going through and getting together all of the assets, all of the debts, all of the different things that you might own, personal belongings. We do an inventory of the house. I have all kinds of things built into the system so that you can walk through it piece by piece. And while they're in the middle of this traumatic event that they're having to go through, remember, take a breath. But there is no rush, no matter what. There are deadlines once you get it filed and things going, and you need to be aware there may be a mortgage, there may be a car payment, there may be things that are extenuating circumstances that mean you need to move faster. But as far as just having to move, there is no have to move. Breathe, because that is the best thing, because you've got to slow down so that you can make good decisions.
A lot of my viewers are in the situation where maybe they've lost a husband, and their husband was the one that took care of all the financials or knew where all the things were, right? And it's not something, so maybe they got sick, and he ended up passing away, or maybe it was a sudden death. But either way, it's women who are left to say, like, I don't even know where to start. And what happens is people start coming at them and start asking questions that they don't know the answers for. So what would be the first thing that you would tell people to do?
The first thing I would tell you, because I'm the financial person in my household and I'm getting this ready for my husband in case something happens to me, is get the bank statements. Hopefully both of you are on the account. Go through the bank statements and look and see, what has he been doing? Is there a life insurance policy that goes out? Because you're going to need money. So check for life insurance policies first.
So there would be a payment, like a line item that he was paying out, that so that you would see.
Yes, and a lot of people have more than one. You also need to check at the bank where the checking account is, because sometimes there's a small life insurance policy there. And if you find out there's a policy, then you'll need a death certificate and to contact that company and fill out that form. There's actually a website that they can go to that I have in my course where they can find out more information, because I just keep adding as I learn more that there are different ways you can find this, but you have to go through the bank statement, look and see who has he been paying, what ones are automatically drafted, because some of those you may want to stop. So you're going to have to go through, and it's like you're on a scavenger hunt trying to find this information. But if you take the workshop, then I help you put that together before the emergency happens, so that you know, if you're the finance person, the person you leave behind is prepared. Somebody can look in your binder and get all of the information and make sure that everything is taken care of.
Okay, no, this is so great. So what I'm hearing then is, if you're in the situation where someone has passed, the course can help, because you can start working through it immediately. And it's self-paced. Is that correct?
They get a year access.
Right. So you can start working through it, start getting the information that you need.
Mhm.
But I think the overarching message, if you are not in that situation, then there is a big looming thing that's saying, like, get yourself prepared because it's really something that you should do for your loved ones so
Yeah.
that they're not going through this. And if you're somebody who's having to go through this because your situation was unprepared, well, then now is the time to get prepared for you as well once you get through some of the things. And what I'm hearing is either way, that course will help.
And it's not just about when you die, it is about the fact that you may become incapacitated. My aunts were in a wreck in May. One of them was in rehab for a month. Her husband had predeceased her. Someone had to go in and help her figure out what bills needed to be paid because she wasn't there and do all of the things. And I have no doubt it was difficult because the stuff wasn't organized for somebody to come in, because most of us don't do that because we have all the information in our head. Why do I need to write
Mhm.
this down? You're writing it down for whoever you're saying, will you come help me in an emergency? That person needs that information.
I think some of this, right? So I don't want to scare people, right? Because I think there is an urgency, right? I think that everyone should do this. I feel very, very passionately about it myself. So what you do is so powerful because it will help, because you have enough to worry about if you've lost someone that you love, to have somebody there like you to kind of hold their hand, in a sense, walk through this course and give them everything that they need. I think that is such a gift that you offer, and that's why I am completely passionate about it. And if you're in the situation where maybe you're a year or two out from your loss, you've had to handle all the probate already, you've done all the things. How long, Katrina, is a typical probate? How long does that process take?
Florida, a formal probate, when someone has just passed, they can take between 6 months to a year, is what I tell people, unless there are lawsuits involved. And it may
Okay.
be that your loved one was killed in a car wreck and there's a wrongful death lawsuit. I do have one case that is still open because of Hurricane Michael insurance. That was 2018. They're still fighting with the insurance company trying to determine what's going to be paid. So that is Florida. I researched it when I did my book, and some of them, they're just a few months, and some of them are like Florida where it's longer. And I know Alabama's is about between 6 months and a year because I have an attorney in Alabama that I work with. Georgia's a little different because my attorney that works up there works and does the same thing, but theirs has different requirements. And a lot of it is the time requirements that the court requires, because in Florida, you have to notice creditors and give them 90 days to file a claim.
What's the benefit of doing this?
On my website, when you go in to look at the workshop itself, there are 2 videos that you need to watch. One of them, she tells you flat out, I thought I had my stuff together. It was all in a little folder right here in my safe, until Katrina started talking. Once she started talking, I'm like, oh boy, because she had her legal documents. That was all she had, because we have been taught all of our life, all you need to do is get your legal documents and everything's going to be fine. It's not going to be fine. Somebody has to be able to pay your bills, know who to pay, what your medical conditions are, what you're allergic to, all of these things that no one knows about you, especially if you lost your spouse. Your children are not going to remember all the medications you take or who your doctors are or where your surgeries were most of the time. I do have some people that are like me and all up in their mother's business and know all this stuff, but my mother has her own binder that she's working on. But it gives them a sense of, I have taken a step to make sure if my children have to step in or my best friend has to step in, I have all this information where they know they can go get it off the shelf, or if they forget something, they can go get it off the shelf, because in the middle of an emergency, you don't know what you're going to forget when they're throwing all these questions at you. My sister has had the same phone number for 20 something years. My husband is in the emergency room. I'm like, I need you to call my sister. And they're looking at me, okay, give me the number. And I drew a complete blank. Totally. And it was like, oh my goodness, because things like that happen, And it is hard, but with your information organized and put together, you don't have to worry about that. Your daughter or son does not have to try to remember your medications on top of their medications and their kids' medications. You're making life simpler for everyone, and you can relax and be less stressed knowing you have put this together. So when you need help, someone can help you. On the plus side, in addition to that, if you pass away, it helps them get all of that stuff done so that you have made it easier on them either before you pass or after you pass, so that life does not have to be as traumatic when you pass away, because we're all going to die. We're all going to get sick as we get older. It just happens. We all get to be young, but we don't all get to be old. And that is so true. I have very few probates that are in their 90s and 100s. Most of them are 50s and 60s, the age that everybody thinks I'm going to live forever, or I'm going to live and I don't have to worry about this because nothing is going to happen to me.
Because I mean, we all know here, right? Like we live it, that people die unexpectedly.
Yes.
My number one video that people watch has to do with sudden death. That is basically when nobody was looking, nobody was planning, nobody thought it was ever going to happen, and suddenly they're gone. And there's so much to do, and it can be so overwhelming. So I love the fact that you put things together to help people before that happens. We know my messaging to all of you is to get these things done. Use the time that you have to make sure that your situation is done. You will be doing a service to the people that love you, the people who care about you. You will be making things easier for them. And I think that's so important. I really, really do. You have the workshop. They can find the workshop at beforeyadie.com. And I will make sure that we put a link here for anyone if they need to go to that. And then you also have a book that you wrote.
I wrote a book. Let's see if I can get it in the right light. Prevent the Chaos. And I have a workbook that goes with it if they want to do it themselves. This is for the DIY who wants to learn it on their own and complete the forms, make the forms, whatever they need to do for themselves. But I knew if I was making them for my family, why not put them out there for everybody else?
So yeah, so how would somebody know whether or not the book versus the course, which one would be right for them? How do you decide that?
The biggest thing, well, you have two reasons: time and money. Because if you have the time and you want to do this, the book is $20, the workbook is $20, so you can do this. However, you don't get access to me or the monthly Q&A or anything like that. But if you don't have the money, that is a good place to start, because it's going to cost you $20 or $40 to sit down and learn about things that you should and should not do, about the different documents and the things that you need to put together. Now, the course, I keep building and adding to it. It is $497 for a year's access. You can go on there, and I have broken the questionnaires down into as small as I can make them. I've tried to make this as simple as possible, because if it's difficult, we're not going to do it. But if you get it together while you're young, all you have to do is add to it, look at it, and review every year, because you need to review your insurance paperwork, your retirement paperwork, your investment paperwork, all of the things, including your bank accounts, anytime there's a life event. That is birth, death, wedding, or divorce. You need to check those things out and make sure your stuff is going to who you want it to.
Now, one thing that I want to do is, and then because we haven't defined it, what is probate and how can you avoid probate?
Okay, I'm going to describe probate the same way that the attorney that I have worked for does. Probate is the vehicle that you use to move assets from the deceased person's name to the beneficiary. That's simple, but it is a process where you have lots of legal steps, but that is the purpose. You have to gather all of the asset information, all of the creditor information, and let every beneficiary, every creditor know, hey, we're filing probate. You have this long to file a claim. And they go through, and then after the creditor's period and all the assets have been gathered and accounted for, and the beneficiaries have been contacted. Then they go through and start distributing it pursuant to the last will and testament, if they have one, or according to the state law in the state that you live in. If you're a beneficiary, you do not have to accept what they give you. I have people all the time that walk away and say, no.
So that is so interesting to me. So tell me more about that.
Well, let's say you have a family that has 5 kids. Do you want to share a car with your 4 siblings? Do you
No.
want to share a piece of property with your 4 siblings? Most people are going to say no, because that ends up, you cannot buy, you cannot sell, you cannot mortgage, you can't do anything without everyone agreeing.
So this is a lot of really useful information. What is the thing, like, what's the takeaway for anyone that's watching this? What do you want them to know? What do you want them to do?
There is hope. You are not alone. There are people like me, and I'm not the only one, willing to help you walk through this, talk you through these different things, because we are humans. We each have our own story, and it's unique. The things that we buy, the things that we sell, the things that mean something to us are all different. And you have to decide, what am I going to do with this? How am I going to explain this to someone else about what my life is, what means something to me? I talk to my people and I tell them, what means something to you is not going to mean something to little Jimmy if he doesn't know the story behind it. So I tell them, write a letter so that you can let them know where this came from, what is going on, why it meant something to you. So if you have something that means something to you, put it together. Let them know. Write a little note to them. Those personal notes that you can leave for your grandchildren or your child, something that they can look back on when they're in the middle of this and when they get through the grief, will mean the world to them, because you can take steps now to make sure you're taken care of, and that your babies, who you have worked all your life to protect and make sure that they didn't have to go through anything they didn't have to go through, you can make sure they don't have to go through what you just went through. So take the time. There is people willing to help you. Reach out. Don't be afraid to ask. Don't be afraid to act. Get busy doing the things so that you can then go about and enjoy and relax, knowing if something happens, it's okay.
I love that you have the course, and then you also have the ability to talk to you and to communicate with you, so that as questions come up, you really are not alone in it. Yeah, so this is all so valuable information, and it makes sense to be prepared, to get your ducks in the row, to make sure that you are ready for when the worst happens, because all of us here, we all know that the worst does happen and can happen, and we've all seen it and we've all been through it. And so, yeah, so just prepare. I think I
Yep.
think that
And
is the takeaway.
once you have it prepared, you get to just go back and review it and update it as you need to. And it's a lot less stressful on you, because I know I'm not the only person that struggles with all of the passwords and the authentication stuff that you have to do. So can you imagine somebody having to step in and do this for you?
And all of this can be very overwhelming, and it can be scary.
Yes.
And so I love that you break it down, that you put it in a course that's self-paced, that you can go through at your own speed, the speed that you need, but then also have access to you to be able to ask questions and get information. I think what you're doing is phenomenal. I love it so much. I love everything about it. I can't wait to keep working with you more as time goes on.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's no reason to make things harder. Life is hard enough. Let's make it a little bit easier for ourselves and those we love.
And thank you so much for being here. I will make sure that all the links are below, and that we have all the details that people need so that they can reach out to you. Love that so much. Thank you so much for being here.
You're welcome. Thank you.